Welcome to Good Morning Football, presented by Intuit QuickBooks. We are live in New York City. It's Friday, November 15th. My name's Kay, Nate Burleson, Kyle Brandt, Peter Schrager, all here. We, of course, have your highlights from last night to start off the morning. You want to talk about the Browns and Steelers and also the brawl that is trending still overnight. What do you got?
Let's go to Cleveland. Kay's right. We're going to talk a lot of Myles Garrett, but first, here is the play in what was otherwise a fantastic night for the Browns. They have not beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers in over 3 years, guys. So they really needed to have this one. Baker coming off a win. What do we got? This is what you've been looking for now for 3 months. Over the middle, Odell running free. It looks like 6. They actually called him down at the 1, but what was he doing here? Hands in front of the face, kind of fake yawning. You might remember Mike Tomlin also had this reaction.
You're going to have to figure out what to do with him, right?
Oh, wow. So a lot of yawning. They did not like that. There will be more yawning later in this highlight from another Browns receiver. And this is the two of them jawing, going at it. This is good Browns-Steelers stuff. There was a lot of it, including this. Baker gets in to score after they called Odell down, and the place is rocking. This is the image that they had of this team. Headbands, screaming, touchdowns, beating the Steelers. Second quarter. Steelers now down 7-0. Watch this play how open Jarvis is. Just standing there all alone. They set him free, and what's Jarvis going to do to celebrate? Again, that was Tomlin's reaction to, well, the Browns got Odell. They got all these players. The fake yawn, and meanwhile, they're down 14-0 as Tomlin looks for answers. All right. A lot of injuries in this one, and not the good kind. There isn't any good kind, but this was the ones that we don't want to see. Mason Rudolph's going to go over the middle to Juju, and he gets sandwiched. He collides with Greedy Williams and Morgan Burnett. You're going to see it on a replay as he stays down. There's some helmet to helmet. He gets up, he walks off, but he would leave the game and not return. I wish that was the end of it. It's not. Third quarter now, 14-0. Steelers still not even on the board. Mason Rudolph makes a nice play, dumps it to Jalen Samuels, who walks in for a 3-yard touchdown. The Browns had 4 penalties on that drive alone. Now we got a game. Let's go to the money quarter. Fourth quarter, 14-7. Mason Rudolph can drop back to pass over the middle, deep in his own territory, vertical end zones. Intercepted by Joe Schobert. And I like the celebration at the end of this. He doesn't get in, but he's just going to take a quick moment just to soak it in. The teammates let him stay down there for about 20 minutes. Had his moment. Mason looking at the surface. Now, 14-7. Baker, what are you going to do? Looking to the back of the end zone. Who's he looking for?
A Princeton Tiger?
Stephen Carlson, undrafted free agent from Princeton. I saw him do this against Brown. Now he's doing it for the Browns. Unbelievable. He has his first career catch. That's it from Baker Mayfield in the back of the end zone.
Unbelievable catch.
Great catch. We'll get into him later. Jamestown, New York, hello. But this is where it all unraveled. Mason Rudolph completes a pass, but it's what after the play happened. Guys, Myles Garrett took his helmet off and hit him with it. Marquise Pouncey went absolutely nuts. We're going to see more angles of this. If you're seeing it for the first time, we will take you through this melee again. Myles Garrett completely blew a microchip. Now watch on the top of the screen. He's going to take Rudolph down late. Then there's jawing and screaming. There's helmet grabbing. You got 2 Steelers linemen there. But as Garrett gets up, he's going to pull up Rudolph by the face mask. All right, pull. He gets it completely off. Then Rudolph gets up, re-engages once more, and Myles Garrett pulls a full swing right on the head. And Marquise Pouncey, the Steelers lineman, goes nuts, punches, kicks, a full brawl. There's going to be another shot. This is not pretty. The helmet lands directly on Mason Rudolph's exposed head. Thankfully, he is okay. Said after the game he feels fine. The coaches confer. Multiple ejections. Garrett is obviously out of the game. He might be out of the season. We don't know. But there's major penalties coming. Again, Mason Rudolph is okay despite taking that shot to the head. Freddie Kitchens out of control. What are they doing on the field? It was really, really ugly. It was otherwise a wonderful night for the Cleveland Browns, who win 21-7. But all the talk was about that melee. And here is the man in the center of it first, Myles Garrett, discussing what he did.
What I did was foolish, and I shouldn't have allowed myself to slip like that. That's out of character. But a situation like that where, it's an emotional game, like Larry said, and allow myself to fall into those emotions, with that last play and what happened.
Do you think he should be suspended?
I don't know what the rules are. I don't know, but I know it's Bush League. I know he's, total coward move on his part. I get. I mean, it's okay though. I'll take it. I'm not going to back down from any bully out there. So we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Baker Mayfield also echoing the same sentiment in his post-game presser. We'll bring you that side of things. Looking at Ian Rappaport now. Unfortunate end to the Steelers-Browns game. I'd like to be talking about how Baker Mayfield found some life out there for a second week in a row, but instead we're talking about repercussions for what transpired last night. What do you got?
That's right, Kay. Hard to imagine anyone focusing on the actual result of the game, considering that melee, a pretty ugly situation there in the Steelers-Browns game. My understanding is this matter, the actions of Myles Garrett and others involved in this, it is all going to be reviewed for possible suspensions. And for Myles Garrett, my understanding is it could be a multi-game suspension, and probably likely is a multi-game suspension. This is something the league is going to address early this morning, and we have seen in the past, actually early this season with Vontaze Burfict, when a player gets suspended, usually it comes the morning after, so obviously we're going to be following very closely. As far as comparable situations, the one that comes to mind is Albert Haynesworth stomping on Andre Gerard's head. It took him, it was a 5-game suspension for Albert Haynesworth. Wouldn't be surprised if Myles Garrett ended up with the same thing. And we've seen reactions from all different people, including several involved. Baker Mayfield, as you mentioned, saying right away in his post-game interview that it's something that's not acceptable, and essentially saying Myles Garrett is going to be suspended, and sounds like he has a pretty good chance of being right. It was worth noting the reaction from Mason Rudolph's agent, Tim Younger, tweeted very, very late last night. He essentially said, tonight could have had a catastrophic ending, and he said the matter will be reviewed thoroughly. Younger is a lawyer, perhaps taking a look at reviewing legal action against Myles Garrett. Obviously, we're going to take you through all of the ramifications of this throughout the day.
3 players ejected, a couple of injuries in this one as well. Thank you, Ian, for joining us this morning and clarifying what could be happening, and we'll be following this on NFL Network all day long. Back here in New York City on Good Morning Football. Nate, what did you see in those final 10 seconds or so?
I saw Myles Garrett lose his cool. I don't want to be dismissive. It was wrong. It was a ridiculous action. It was described as, I believe, barbaric by Aikman. I don't know if I'll go that far. But I have seen that before at practice. I've seen it in games. It's one of those things where when emotions are so high that you actually lose every sense of who you are. From what we know in Myles Garrett, this seems completely out of character. And that's exactly what Myles Garrett said. Should he be suspended? Sure, 100%. Should we look at Myles Garrett as a villain? No. We've seen fights happen before on the field. We've seen guys recover in their career, and he will be just fine. He's apologetic about it, and hopefully this never happens again.
Browns hadn't beaten the Steelers since 2014. They have never beaten the Ravens and Steelers in the same season. They did all that last night. All that squandered. None of that matters right now. This morning we're talking about this play that we're watching, and we're talking about the horror of this incident. It's horrific, Kay. It's a low moment for the NFL, and it's a terrible moment for the Cleveland Browns. I want to turn the page and say it was a one-time deal. They have that opportunity to do that. But for this moment, 7 a.m. in the morning, terrible moment. And a terrible example of what the NFL wants to put on there on a national stage. They have an opportunity to turn this thing around, but they're going to have to take their lumps first, and that includes the Browns team. No one's talking about the win this morning. They're talking about that incident.
It was shocking. Shocking. I feel like I've seen it all. I feel like I've seen all the low moments. I've gone through all the slideshows of NFL's most infamous moments. I've never seen this before. And it's also just shocking because we have all been lulled into thinking that Myles Garrett is the poetry-writing dinosaur enthusiast, the gentle giant, and that all went out the window. Shocked that it was against Mason Rudolph. I don't know what he has against him. Shocked that it was in a game that they're winning on a great night for Cleveland. And I'm like, Myles Garrett didn't offer a lot of explanation. He just said he lost his cool. I'm racking my brain trying to get into what happened in his head that made this happen. The only thing I can come up with, I know Myles Garrett took a lot of pride in being the #1 pick for Cleveland, especially against Pittsburgh. And one of the first things he ever said was he wants to sack Ben Roethlisberger. And he put Ben Roethlisberger's picture in a paper shredder in a viral video. I don't know, in the moment of this, he says, this is a Cleveland versus Pittsburgh fight, and I'm the baddest guy on the block. And if you come at me with a knife, I'm going to hit you with a sledgehammer. I don't know if he got caught up in that sort of rivalry thing in the worst part of way.
Yeah.
It doesn't excuse it, obviously, but I'm just trying psychologically to figure out how a guy who seems really in touch with himself and really intelligent could blow it that badly. We've seen guys lose composure, not like that.
In a game that wasn't competitive, after the whistle with 6 seconds left. It's definitely wild, and I don't know that we'll ever get those answers, maybe eventually. But to move it forward, like you're saying, Striggs, you're saying he could turn this around. Is that true? Like, is this always going to be, Nate, as Kyle puts it, a tattoo on him? When we think of certain players, and I'm not trying to lump him in with players who have priors, who have rap sheets like that, but like even when you go on Twitter right now, people are pulling up minor infractions that Myles Garrett has done on the field. Like, look, he did this too, and they're blowing those things out of proportion because of this. And everything that he's involved in after this is going to be looked at differently, right?
Yeah, let's be careful with, loaded words like priors and rap sheets. I know you didn't mean to say that, but he has a strong resume. This is an individual that hasn't been in the face of any ill-doing in the league. And I'm glad you asked the question and phrased it that way. Will this be a tattoo you can wear forever? I have an arm sleeve of tattoos. The one thing about tattoos is they can be covered up. Yeah, you can see what the old tattoo is, but if you cover it up the right way and you do it the right way, nobody can tell what the old tattoo was. So if Myles Garrett continues to move forward in the right direction this year and then following in the rest of his career, this will be just a small moment that one time he lost his cool, and hopefully he can do that.
Is this a tattoo?
Yeah, I'm not out to destroy Myles Garrett in any way.
100%.
But there is no sandblaster you could take to this. He could go to the Hall of Fame and win 3 Super Bowls, and this will still be remembered. It's not his legacy, but guys, Ron Artest went on to win NBA championships. We remember still something about him that was not really savory, and that's Myles Garrett's fault. He completely lost it. This will always be remembered. It's not the whole story, but better believe it's a chapter.
Again, just to turn it around, like he can use this moment. His name is in every piece of news right now and make it for the better and say, hey, I messed up. Here's what I wouldn't do if I could do it again. I think there's that opportunity, I would hope, sooner rather than later.
There's a lot more to the story, of course. We'll get into Marquise Pouncey, his role, the Steelers side of things, all of that right here on Good Morning Football. We'll see if we can get to the Browns looking impressive last night.
Right.
They were good.
Jarvis Landry
Really good.
and Baker
Good job, Browns. You guys played well.
Reinvigorating his play
Baker,
on the
second
field.
week in a row.
We'll see if we can get to that. Now, we have a marquee matchup this weekend. Ravens-Texans. Who wins the blockbuster showdown? We'll fill you in. And one of our favorite players and best guests will join us to talk Vikings. I mean, this is our most frequent GMFB guest.
We love a Kyle Rudolph sighting.
Come and knock on our door.
This is it.
Kyle Rudolph joining us.
Our 5th host.
And the 5 Timers Club.